Good morning, YouTube. Today we're going to install these standard Harley hand adjustable shocks on this 2017 Harley Ultra Limited Low, and going to see how they turn out. So the tools you will need for this job are 3/4 inch open end box, or for you metric boys, 19-inch open end box ratchet, or a socket and ratchet. All of these will help do the trick. Obviously, having a ratchet is better than wrenching it by hand. And you will need some way to get the back end of the motorcycle up off the ground to unload the suspension. So now you don't necessarily need a motorcycle lift like this. I've actually done this kind of work, replaced rear tires simply by strapping the front of the motorcycle down. If you have a trailer with a chock on it, that works great. And then all you need is a floor jack and a 2x4, and you can get the back end off the ground. The main thing is you have to be able to unload the suspension, so when you take the shocks off, you can install the longer ones. So easy enough, you just have to remove these two bolts. Nothing too hard. I already loosened these when I had the bike on the ground, which makes it easier and more stable. And just like that, you've got your two shocks off. So the low shocks are approximately 12 inches in length, center to center. And your standard shocks are closer to 13. They are a little different. One is a little bit longer than the other, but these are stated as 13-inch shocks. The main difference is that you see here, you get about 1.5 inches of travel, of shock travel here, as opposed to the standard shock, just a little over 2 inches of shock travel. Some people might not think that's a lot, but it does make a difference in the ride. The reason I'm doing this is because of where I have to ride. The roads are kind of rough. So when I first bought this bike, I bought it because it was on sale. I didn't really need or want a low, but it was a good deal. And for when I was in town, it worked great. Didn't have any issues. Ride was fine. But now that I'm traveling longer distances and riding on rougher roads, you start to notice the lack of suspension travel here. So I went ahead and bought a set of standard shocks. These actually come on the regular Ultra Limited. And of course, these are the ones that come on the low. I believe these also are the ones that would come on your street glides and road glides because they're the lower shock. Harley states in their website that installing these shocks lowers your seat height by about 3/4 of an inch. And that might not seem like much, but I think with this amount of shock travel, it would make a big difference, but we're going to find out. Harley also states that if you're installing a lowered front end, which Harley sells a lowered front end, so you could turn your regular electric glide or limited to a low with the low front shock. They say you have to have the low front shock, you have to have the low rear shock. Well, I'm actually going to be doing the opposite. I already have a low front end, and I'm going to be installing the standard shock. Apparently you could have some issues with some handling. There could be a situation where the geometry is a little off. I don't think 3/4 of an inch is going to make a difference, but once I get these on, I'll take it for a ride and we'll find out. So one of the things I noticed, the height between here and here on the two mounting points is where the original shock was. And as you can see, with the standard shock, there's a bit of a height difference. So this is why you would need to have something to be able to raise the motorcycle, raise the frame, while the wheel stays on the ground. And then you can install your mounting hardware. So, same thing on this side. Just go ahead and install your bolts, tighten them down. And then once you're done, then all you would need to do is reinstall your saddlebags. Pretty simple process. Got those two bolts you got to remove that are inside the bag. Just put them back in. Mine has a connector for my accessory tail lights. Yours may not. And that's pretty simple. So we'll finish this up and then we'll take it for a ride. All right, so just got back from my ride. I took my usual commute route to work. Same gravel roads, same potholes, same cattle guard crossings, highway, bridge expansions, all that. And all I can say is that this is a 100% improvement over the low shocks. The standard shocks just give you that much more shock travel, of course, suspension travel, and just a big improvement. No more bottoming out, no more harsh jolts to my backside. I did check for the handling. It seemed spot on, nothing different. Did some low and mid-speed maneuvering, some S's, did some U-turns. No difference whatsoever in the way the bike handled. I did notice that I was able to get more lean angle out of the bike before the floorboard started to scrape, so that's a plus. That improved, clearance just that much makes a big difference in the way, the amount of ground clearance you have, and of course the lean angle. If you guys have any questions, comments, get that comment section. Of course, if you like the video, hit that like. If you want to subscribe, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Again, ultra limited low, putting standard shocks, thumbs up.